Welcome to Creative Piecemeal Podcast, a podcast for creatives. I'm your host, Tammy Takeishi. Join me for compelling conversations with artists, actors, authors, musicians, and other creatives about the impact of the creative and fine arts in their lives and our ever-changing world. Thank you for listening. Hello, and welcome to Creative Piecemeal Podcast. Today, I am joined by Dr. Rebekah Louisa Smith, aka Rebekah, the Film Doctor. She was born in the United Kingdom and began as a personal assistant at a variety of corporate companies, working her way up to become an award-winning consultant and media personality who has over a decade of film festival strategy consulting experience. Although that is not all she does, she's recently written a book called Born to Do It, becoming the leader of a business niche using powerful spiritual techniques. And her aim is to help others who are pondering the leap into entrepreneurship or who are already on the journey and yearning for more success and profitability. One of the reasons that I'm so excited that Dr. Rebekah is here today is to not only discuss what she does, but also about creativity and the connection with mental health. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Tammy.
So why don't we just dive right in? I would love to know more about your book and how it can help people across the creative field.
So Born to Do It came out of the blue. It wasn't like I'd planned to write it for a couple of years. It pretty much came into my world when a publisher said, "You ever thought about writing your own story and helping people from your experiences?" And I said, no. But then as this pandemic occurred, I thought, well, there's probably time to actually write it because my routine was different. We go into festivals all the time normally and traveling like nonstop. So it was nice to actually dive deep into the world of writing that I hadn't done for a while since my PhD. So I thought, I've done a lot of kind of business experience since 2010, and I started out in the world of business without any business degrees, but I learned kind of on the job. But I had lots of experiences with business coaches and also spirituality. And I realized when I was working with business coaches that the missing component in the field of literature for business startups and running a business was spirituality. They didn't really talk much about how to manifest what you want for the business, how to make a vision board, how to place your cosmic orders. It was kind of very much, I wouldn't say it was all dry. It was just very much like, the infrastructure, the business tools, the systems that are important. But it's kind of like a gap in the field, talking about to really, to get that dream client, to get that dream project. And there's other things that goes into it than just putting in your KPIs. I thought it was a little bit missing. So I kind of fused the two together. And what I did is in the book is I wrote about how to start up your business when you find out what it is that you really want to do, that you're born to do, aka your sole purpose, what you're born to do, and how to find your niche, and then how to start up your business and incorporate the key spiritual components.
Excellent. And of course, you're known as the film doctor. How did that come to be? Is that something that you always dreamed of doing, or did you sort of fall into your niche?
That was not a job I thought I would be doing when I was younger, my dream job, but it is my dream job now, and I live the dream because I love doing what I do. But again, came by accident. It's like my other thing, that the book came by accident too. So I was studying my PhD, and I knew that when I did my PhD thesis, I was interested in it. Obviously, I had a passion for Tarantino and academia to a degree, but it didn't feel like it was my why that got me up in the morning, and I had all these creative ideas for my PhD. I enjoyed it, but there was something more to come. I didn't know what it was, but I thought I'm going to go with the flow. So I moved to Wales and Aberystwyth. That's in a coastal town in Wales, quite far from where I was born and raised. And I thought I'm just going to go with the flow. And I was asked to co-produce a film festival. And I thought, why not? Because it'd be a nice hobby. And that hobby actually tapped in and tuned into my sole purpose. This is what I love to do. I love producing film festivals. And I asked filmmakers during the festival what they liked and disliked about film festivals. And they all said the same thing. We love film festivals. The issue we have is that we've got nobody to turn to to ask or figure out how to get our films into festivals. There's no strategist available. We're just hoping for the best and seeing what happens and throw it in the air and no strategy at all. I thought, well, there must be somebody doing this. It turns out there wasn't really anybody doing it, like as a full-time business. There was one company that doesn't do it anymore, but he was a really good pioneer for that niche, and I learned a lot from him. So we went on Google, me and my friend. I thought, anyone else that does this? Because back in that day, in like 2009, LinkedIn and Instagram, Twitter, Facebook or X weren't used in the same way as they are now for businesses. So really it was the internet, a Google search. And there was that one person who had a very small on the side business doing that, but it wasn't like a full-time thing. Or I wanted to go big, and I wanted to make sure every filmmaker had beside them a film strategist to get their films into festivals. And here we are. So I finished the PhD, but then I really, really wanted to, follow my dream and build up this business. And I had no business experience at that point. I had a PhD to help me and figure out how to manage a project, but I didn't have any business experience. But I was, guided to leave Wales, go to London, where the film industry is in the UK, and build it up. And now I live in the US, building it up over here. So it was just having to trust it and to let go of all doubt. Like, oh, you can't do it. It's so small. You got to prove to people this is going to work. I thought, well, I know it's going to work because I'm doing it and I'm guided to do it. And I've got this plan in place and I know it's going to work. I just have to really just stand my ground and just go with the flow and see what happens.
That reminds me of that Japanese principle. I think it's pronounced like ikigai or ichigai, where there's like these 4 things, and it's like what the world needs and what you love and what you're worth and what you can be paid to do. And it's sort of smooshed together.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is. Yeah. I didn't know much about that until I started researching when I moved to London about, business systems and spirituality. And they all kind of came at the same time and naturally blended together. And then I was like, my book can help with this now, because there's people who are struggling with businesses because they're not focused on what they want, knowing what they want, and also bringing in spirituality to help them, because it is a real key tool.
What are some key components that you tend to tell every client, regardless of the kind of project they're working on?
The key thing I tell each client of mine is to always create for themselves a space where they can let go. Because a lot of my clientele have spent a lot of time making a piece of art, that being their film. And sometimes people don't always can always detach emotionally and see the film as a product, because when the film has finished production and post-production, it then becomes a product to get out there in the world, and people will not perceive it in the same way that they did, because they obviously put the heart and soul and emotions into it. Obviously, people like distribution companies, festivals, and sales agents, they don't see it in that same way, because they're looking at how they can sell it and market it to an audience. So it is a very different process, and it can be hard for people to transition, because it's their pride and joy, which is understandable, but it can be tough when rejections come in and they start to take it personally. And it's really important to remember, in the world of film festivals, it's very rare nowadays that they didn't like the film. When it's a good film, there's definitely means it was liked, but it's only in every single festival. Rejection is part of the process. And that's what I encourage my clients to do, is take a space to let go and let your baby now go out in the world, and don't hold it back by being so attached to it and so emotionally attached to it, because that way it can't breathe. Anyone get the results that you want. And that's a real key thing that I mentioned in my new ebook that came out, Film Festivals Look After Your Mental Health. Although it's for aimed at filmmakers, it can be applied to any industry, but that's a key thing, is to let go and allow the results to come in, and trust in the strategy and the process, and it will come. And to remember that no just means not yet. Some will come in, just not when you might want it on your timetable.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I imagine that sometimes something may be entered in a film festival and it might be wonderful, but maybe it's not the right fit for that type of film festival.
Exactly. So it's important when you strategize that you include in that strategy festivals that have an audience for your film, and have themes that fit the theme of your film, and would be very suitable for the festivals. It has the right kind of people and team and all and that can resonate with the film. Is a real key thing. If you end up going too general and broad, you'll get no's, and it's more rejection. So it's very important nowadays to be streamlined and focused and very targeted.
That seems like it could be applied to so many aspects, whether it's applying for jobs or applying for schools or anything like that. Really, really honing in on what might be a good puzzle piece fit before you even cast your net out there.
Oh, absolutely. It is. I mean, it's very important that whatever job industry you're in, you have a strategy. And that's one of my mottos is always have a strategy, always have a plan. And that's not just film festivals, as you correctly say. It's for any industry, any career position, any area in the industry. It's really important to have that life plan and that map so that you know which direction to go in. And sometimes you might have to change gears here and there, which is totally normal. It can be like with a festival strategy, for example. Sometimes you think, okay, well, let's get into more festivals that are, say, women's festivals than it is general ones. So let's stick to that niche and let's excel and flourish and get loads more results and awards because that's where it's clicking. So stuff like that, tap into that niche and you can then become like an abundance of selections and awards. And it's just a joy to see that happen.
Do you ever anticipate making a film yourself in the future?
Well, saying that, a friend of mine this morning, she read Born to Do It. It's actually divine timing. And she got around to reading it. She's been really busy traveling. And she said, I just finished reading the book. And it so clicks with me. And I've got to get my vision board up and running for 2024. Now it's around the corner. And then she said, this is quite a story that you've been on, like with the journey, how you got into your industry, but also when you were planning on moving to LA, then you had the issue in immigration. And then I ended up in Dallas. That in itself is a film. So we should really document this because it's different. I was like, well, yes, we probably could. I mean, I have to find somebody to write the script for me and then I can then, maybe produce. But it's something that I think it's coming to me probably next year to really get developing it because it's something that many science people have said, let's do it. But I've been like, busy with the business. So now is probably a time to decide today and with you and ask that question, let's get it into shape.
You mentioned vision boards. I love that. I love that so much. I remember creating like a physical one years ago when I was wanting to get into grad school for music therapy. And I had like the campus map taped up on the wall and like lots of little other stuff like that. But what are some of your favorite ways to vision board? Are you a physical vision boarder or do you like to do like the Pinterest thing?
First of all, love that you had a physical vision board, exactly what you wanted in those pictures. Because obviously, you say pictures got to resonate. They can't just be random pictures. They got to resonate. So I'm both. So I have a physical A3 vision board. And I also have an app called Vision Board where I have my one that I carry around with me. That app is just called Vision Board. Basically, it's quite easy to find. And you put your own images on there and you put your affirmations. For example, I will receive an award at the Cannes Film Festival by 2024 in May 24, for example, and put an image of like the Palme d'Or. That's a good example. So you have words and pictures and you have like a deadline when you want it to happen or you just like a time frame so you can start manifesting and focus on it and get really, when you really got it. So I have both. And when I did my vision board at the very beginning, when I first got into this world of vision boards, I did it in a way that was a little bit not really what I wanted. But then I looked at it properly and I was like, you know what? I'm going to put on my vision board exactly what I want and the affirmations of what I want and images that click with me. So I spend a bit of time creating a vision board. I don't do it in 2 minutes. I like, get magazines that I know will connect with the images in there, whether it be Elle Decoration or Tatler and Harper's Bazaar, Vogue, all those kind of magazines that are aesthetically pleasing and have images that sometimes just grab onto you. And it takes me time to store them up. And then I put them together. Sometimes what I do on my A3 vision board, like I have over there, is I put stickers on that are like, of awards and Oscars. And I also have images on there, which are like words like you can do it and goals, soulmate, all those kind of things that you can get off the internet, those kind of stickers. And also images that I tend to find maybe on cards I put on A3, like an image of, say, teamwork or a dog or something that really clicks and like something I do want for 2024 and not to procrastinate. Not that I do, but just something that will be like, right, let's look at this and then believe we have the right dog and the right pooch to come and live here. That kind of thing. I'd be quite creative with it and I spend time and I only put an image up on there that clicks with me. If it's an image that doesn't really resonate, I'm not going to put it up because it's not, connected to it. I've got to look at it and think, this is me. So I have one on there right now. This is one for 2024. And it's an image of a woman. It's just a close-up of a woman with this jacket on and this gold bag. And it was in an article about confidence, work confidence, so she's got the gold bag and she's going to a meeting or an event or presentation. And look at that. And it's like, this clicks. It's like, going for gold. And the bag being gold just made me think, ooh, because gold is a color that, it always represents with top prize and the gold medal and that kind of thing, and the highest of the high. And it just clicked with the images. So it's the images and the colors that really connect with me to do my vision board. I do find that I look at both every day on my app and on my office, but with the app is great because it reminds you, look at it. It says visualize your dream life. Every morning when you wake up, there's a little notification to look at it, and when you look at it, you stare at it and go like, yeah, just find like a few minutes to stare at it. And it's time to do that. Do it end of the day if you have to. But that's a really good reminder to every day it says visualize your dream life.
I love that. I'm such a huge fan of that type of mindset, I guess you could say, or even a lifestyle of just sort of infusing yourself with confidence and affirmations. And because life, even if you have a lot of great things in life, there can be tough days. There can be days where you just need to be reminded that, like, hey, this is a pathway,
Yeah. Oh, exactly. And that keeps you in alignment when you have stuff like that, challenges that come. It still makes you realize to stay focused on your goals. And actually, vision boards can be also seen as like a good mental health tool. Because back in the day, they used to be like fun. When I made my first vision board, it was just a fun thing. It was like, it was like, oh, there's a big car to buy. I was like, do I actually want a Ferrari? Do I really want a Ferrari, or am I happy with the car I have? It's like, what do I really want? It does make you think twice about, is what you want in line with what you want? People say what you should have. So they were like, fun on a piece of paper. There was an A3 piece of paper and stuck it up. It was a bit silly. But now it's like a proper thought out vision board. But they were seen in the beginning as like, back in the day would be like a bit of a fun tool. But now actually they're seen as quite a therapeutic tool and can actually help with mental health issues. So when you have like, some kind of depression or anxiety, when you have a vision board to look at that's like soothing, tranquil images that you want, places you want to go, things you want to achieve, it helps you come out of depression and becomes like a therapeutic kind of tool. So it's not really, maybe the go-to kind of thing that doctor might say, but like art creativity, like putting together the vision board, the whole process, find the images, put them on the paper, gluing them together, putting them in a collage, being artistic, using your hands. It's a really, really good, powerful therapeutic tool that can actually lead to success and ease depression.
Yeah. And I know you mentioned that it started out sort of as a fun thing and now it's more of a mindfulness thing. But I mean, it could definitely still, like, I feel like those two merge, like, put on some music that you enjoy, get out the magazines and scissors and markers and glue. And it's almost like reconnecting to like an inner childhood almost.
It is. It's reconnection, and even with the inner child, because it's when we get that depression and we get those kind of challenges, a lot of it's linked to your inner child, and it needs nurturing, and you need to look after it. And it's something that we always don't really think about. When things pop up for me, it's like challenges or anxiety pops in. Inner child always needs nurturing, and looking at the vision board helps a lot with that. I'm looking at it now. It's like, oh, look at those things there, and these images, and I look at it. I make sure to look at it every day. Sometimes not always first thing in the morning, but they do say that a good time to look at it is first thing in the morning and last thing at night. That just then can keep your subconscious like in alignment with what you want and trains your brain to think in that way. They already have what you want on the board.
Like I said, big fan of vision boards, but what happens if a person doesn't get something that they've hoped for on the vision board? How do you recommend they deal with that?
So I think there's two things. One is to remember maybe not yet or this year, and to keep it on there. If you feel you're connected to it, keep it on there. So I actually had, for the past maybe 3 years, I've always had the Oscar statue on there. I had a film that was Oscar nominated in 2016. That was a short film. That was a consultancy client of mine who did really well with that. I was really proud of him. And I was like, I'd like to have another film that I've worked on further to be Oscar nominated or Oscar shortlisted. And they've announced a few days ago the Oscar shortlist, and one of them is on there. And I had the Oscars on there, as it always has been. Never let go. I never thought like, okay, well, maybe it's not going to, just a dream. It's a pipe dream. It's not really going to ever happen again. But I never thought that. I was like, no, it needs to go on there. And then we had that amazing news to get on the shortlist. So if it gets further, great. But then to get that far is achievement for the client and for the film and for everybody involved. It's really exciting. So I never wanted to get rid of it, and sometimes having disbelief can actually make you keep it on there, and then because you would detach emotionally quite easily from it. So when that happens, if it's like not that year, then it's going to come at some point and you feel strongly attached to it, keep it on there. Also, what's important to another kind of layer to that is it could be maybe just to shift things and change things a little bit, just tweak it. It just needs a different strategy. So if you got on there, like, maybe putting on there something like being the head of marketing, but maybe you need to do something before that to get to the head of marketing. It could be taking a course, learning about being head of marketing, or it could be maybe taking on new projects that will help you get up to that role. Like maybe it's not quite going to be that year. Maybe there's something else that needs to be done to help you. So maybe put there's something, be an image like maybe going on a course about learning being a marketing director, for example, and the head of marketing, that kind of thing. So it could be like, what have I learned from this? So what didn't come together and what still feels like it's in alignment, what isn't, but also what might need tweaking. It's like with rejection letters, or rejection. It's like, okay, there's no failure, only feedback. It just needs to tweak things to go on a different route to get to that top point.
You've, obviously have an interesting journey getting to where you are, but what is one of the biggest barriers that you faced and how did you overcome that?
Well, the biggest thing I faced was a lot of people, and it was not really all my family, but a lot of people in the industry said to me, with this business that you want to launch and becoming a festival strategist, because nobody really does it and no one knows about it, you've got to prove this works. And someone said it's going to be blood, sweat, and tears for you to do that. It's going to trust me. And they were not wrong. They were spot on. It was like tough in the beginning. It's getting knocked down and people not believing in it or seeing the value in it. But I was still disciplined, even when the no's I got and the doors being shut by people saying, this doesn't sound like our thing. We don't really need it. People began to realize that you do. And they were saying, well, it's really hard. And someone now knows this. There's someone here that can just tell us what to do. It's such an amazing thing. So I thought, yes, it is. And the people that did believe me, and then they got behind me and helped me. So it's finding a tribe is really important. And they weren't all just business coaches. Some of them were, but people in my industry were like, oh my God, this works. You've helped to get our film into this festival. How'd you do that? Because it was something that was never really known back in 2010. By having to prove this works, I was, staying my ground. I was working up all hours, staying up every hour till God sends to prove this would work. And I've done it. And then people then really started to believe it and were like, oh, word of mouth becomes positive and it spreads and you get then in demand. So that was the biggest thing, was people saying it wouldn't work and that it would take you a long time to prove it. It didn't take that long as I thought it might take. As they were saying to me, they took like years and years. It took more like 2 years to actually fully get that brand and then people knowing what this is. And it was a serious role. And there are people that do what I do. And it's great for them too to have that same appreciation now than what we didn't have in the beginning.
What is something that you have learned along the way that you apply moving forward?
So in hindsight, I wish I sat down the day I said, I'm going to create my business, the Film Festival Doctor. And then I wish I actually thought, right, let's get a business coach. Because I was there just like going full steam ahead with no systems or funnels in place. So I highly recommend you do get a coach, that be a business coach. And potentially a life coach is also good too. Have a mentor to help you that you can trust and believes in you and your business and has the passion for you and generally running a business. Because I have a passion for all the films I work on. I love doing what I do. No one's a number. It's not on a slate of people. Everyone gets that attention, which I love doing. I have a lot of people to work with, so I treat them more differently and how they like to be treated. So it's important that you meet that kind of same business coach on your journey as well.
You have a PhD, and PhDs take a lot of persistence, and I'm sure so many of the skills that you honed in your schooling transferred to business. But what is something that surprised you in that transition from academia to the business world?
Well, academia is great for helping you when you do a PhD manage projects and how to break down a massive project into bite-sized chunks. And that helped me a lot starting up the company. But what surprised me was accounting. I mean, I was really surprised by how convoluted it was, and it's not really a straightforward process. And the tricks and stuff you have to learn was not in a book. So having an accountant tell me what I needed to know was really helpful, because I was just like, thinking, all right, let's save lots of money. Let's not do any expenses. And it's like, you need to kind of put me through the business so you don't pay as much tax. I was like, oh, so of course no one told me that. So, when I know, it's better. But that was a new thing because the books aren't very helpful sometimes. They're not very in layman's terms. I didn't want to do a course on accounting. Sitting down with an accountant that knew it inside out and doing it all his life was so helpful. But I was surprised by how difficult it is when you have your own business. Being a sole trader is not as bad, but having a business is very complex, especially when you are what we call in the UK at the time, I was called VAT registered, and over here it's different. So it's quite a shock to have, a bit overwhelmed by how much I could have lost, but also luckily how much I managed to save by having a good accountant that helped me at the right time.
Getting back to films, fun question. What is one of your favorite films that, not one that you've worked on, but just in general, one of your favorite films?
Pulp Fiction.
Hence the
So
poster.
hence the poster. So Pulp Fiction, I absolutely love. When I watched that back in 1994, I was hooked. The dialogue, and then I'm a big fan of Tarantino. It's my favorite Tarantino film, favorite film generally. That film is one of the best I've ever seen. And I like it because I find the characters realistic, the dialogue's realistic, and Tarantino creates a world where you can get really engaged and, and find yourself living in one of his characters. So it is interesting. And I really like that film because I love the soundtrack as well. So everything about it is just, I think it's a flawless film. It's hard to find a film that's flawless, but I just think it's flawless. Even the bit in the middle, people moan at saying it's a bit too long. I think it's the perfect length. So I don't think it needs to be shorter or longer. It's just as it is. It works like a charm, and I've seen it. God knows, I think I know it word for word, probably like 30 times or more when I was younger. I watched it every weekend. Every time I go on a plane, long haul journey on a plane, I watch Pulp Fiction because it was on the archives.
It sounds like it's one of your top comfort movies.
Yes, it is. Even though it's like, quite violent in some parts, it's so well made, so well done. I can just watch it on loop.
We just recently had the holidays. Is there a comfort holiday movie that you enjoy?
Well, I really love in terms of holidays, like, I actually really like Die Hard as a Christmas movie. But even though it's not a comfort, but I think a really good film that's a really good comfort movie on holidays is The Holiday. Cameron Diaz and Kate Winslet.
Oh,
That's a
yeah.
really, it's a real warming, heartful movie, and it's really good. So that one is one of my favorites.
Yeah, that's a cute one. I really love Love Actually.
Yep, good
And
British
then,
movie.
yep,
Yep.
yep. And then A Muppet Christmas Carol.
Yeah, that's a fun one too. That's a really good one as well. Maverick is was a lot of fun. So you're picking the right movies.
Yes. So again, back to your business. I don't want you to give away secrets or anything like that, but what is something you can share about the new year and what you plan to do in the new year?
So one of the things I'm doing in the new year is I'm launching a new service and product. So the new service is my Oscars submission management service. So it's a service that I just only offer to clients, but I'm actually offering it now to all filmmakers because it is quite a complex submission for the Oscars. It's not a 2 minute, sign up. You need to do quite a few things with it. And it's also quite complex in terms of what they want because some materials have to have no wording on, just the name of the film. So it's quite complex. But I really enjoy it. My team loved doing the Oscar submissions, and I really loved it. And I was like, let's open it up because we don't do it all the time. It's going to be more towards the end of each year, more around August time, July, August time, and September, October time. It's not really going to be this time of each year. So let's open up and do it for shorts and feature films and that kind of thing. So that's going to launch officially the 1st of Jan because the submission process for the Oscars opens the 1st of Jan until 30th of September. And there'll also be another product launching, which is called your Film Festival Submissions Organizer, because submissions open different times of the year. Sometimes people miss things because they don't get notified or because they just get busy. So this is a diary to keep track of all the submissions on your wish list and to keep track of when they open so you don't miss the call for action, and you also submit when it's going to be cheaper and not more expensive.
Oh, that is a really good idea.
Yeah, so they're really good products, a really good product and a really good service to help more filmmakers that want to do that, to do it in a way where they're supported and we just cut through all of the complicatedness and make it easy for them.
We're going to dig deep into a little more of who is Dr. Rebekah. And one thing I'd love to know is, what is a book you read recently that inspired you?
I think a book I read recently that really inspired me was actually, it's a film book. It's called The Art of Film Funding by Carol Dean. And it was interesting because it wasn't all about how to fund your movie. She's a bit like me. We're like twins almost, even though different ages. And she mentions in it that to, get your film funded, it's all about your mindset. And she brings a lot of spirituality. And I got really inspired because she brought in tools and concepts that I work with, a different kind of way to apply them in different kind of like want and need with the film industry. So it was really interesting reading it because there's a lot of it I got from like more inspiration and creativity for my own work and my own clients. And also have a book now because all clients will always say, I want to get funding for my next film. And they had that like attachment, like need the money. It's like that's the wrong way. It needs to be like just looking at the finished film and not getting too over the top with money and how much and finding it. So I give that to them as a really good resource to help them figure out how to find the funds. And also for me, it just pivoted me to just approach things a little bit differently with my own business. And I read it like, okay, well, this will be nice to read for clients about how to help them. I was like, oh, this is actually really relevant to me as well.
That's always good when you pick something up and it's got multiple places in your life,
Yeah.
essentially. Yeah.
Yeah, because it also shows that, it's a book that you can apply. Again, it's like my book, like any industry, not just film, but any industry. So, which is really useful.
What is a band that you absolutely love, like a music band?
I really like the Foo Fighters. I mean, I love their energy on stage, and I work with their manager on a film he directed, which is not about them, but it's a fiction film. And they're just so like Dave Grohl is like his energy is magnetic, and he's so good live. And just the whole music can be, it kind of suits all kind of moods. It can be like, more intense, but also like ballads are more relaxing. So it's got a bit of best of both worlds going on, which I find is really interesting.
Yeah. I love the fact that he morphed also as a musician from like a drummer to a lead and a writer. It's just so cool.
Yeah, no, it is. It's fascinating. And he's a great guy because in his interviews, he's really realistic. And that makes you warm to the music a lot more too. So, yes, I like this to them. I love Everlong. It's probably one of the best songs in the world.
It is a good one. It is a good
Yeah,
one.
really good one. Yeah, agreed.
Something that you help your clients with, of course, is imposter syndrome. Would you mind giving the audience a few tips on working through that?
So, imposter syndrome is a big thing in the arts industry. Well, actually, most industries, but it is big in the arts industry because a lot of other time filmmakers struggle to believe that they deserve their award or a festival laurel that comes in when really they do deserve it, but it's hard for them to believe that they deserve it because they feel incompetent or they're not as intelligent as other people might think. And that when someone will find out, the truth about me, when it's all fictitious and it's all just anxiety. So one way that I help them with that is to help them just in a way by stepping back and asking them to like think, right, okay, remember this is your movie and to remember that you created this and it is all of your work here and to keep talking to themselves positively and to not keep talking to themselves negatively and to think I made this is all me, I have a team around me that can help me, and I open up about what might be the root cause here, because the root cause is not going to be to do with the film. It's something else that's popped up, which could be through childhood or through some kind of trauma, but it really helps just get to the root of it, is talking about it and figuring out where that kind of root cause is, and to keep talking about your achievements positively and to keep saying things that are all kind words to the mind, body, and soul. That helps them a lot. And also to break out of their comfort zone. Because sometimes when they get in that, like that mode, they start thinking, really like, toxic thoughts, it's not helpful. And it comes in this like little kind of like zone where they just then get a bit, I'm gonna just stay here and do my little thing and not grow and be all like the lowest level. It's not really me doing it. There are negative things, and that's not a really good spot to be in because you end up then just not growing and you end up becoming depressed. So it's important to use it and to believe those achievements and that you do believe in yourself and that you love yourself. So it's saying kind of affirmations, positive talk, and also emotional freedom technique comes in here too. EFT is where you do tapping on the body at certain meridian points. And that is really, really good to help overcome those kind of feelings and those words, because it taps into trapped emotions, where sometimes that's what imposter syndrome brings up, is emotions that are trapped and need releasing.
Do you find that confidence issues are one of the biggest barriers that your clients deal with?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Because a lot of the time they are being judged by festivals, it's being judged. And then when they get rejection, like, oh, is it not good enough? When it is, It's just many reasons why films are getting to festivals. It's not because they didn't like it, that it's not good enough. It is. Sometimes it doesn't find the right place to fit, or they haven't got enough room. There's many reasons why. And it's rarely what they think it is. And it's not either, some people say, oh, it's a bad review, that the rejection's a bad review. When they've just been told it's a no. There's no like, oh, it's really bad. Just been told a no. It's not the right way to perceive it. And confidence can come in when they get all the rejections. They start to get really like, am I a good filmmaker? Can I direct? And those questions come up that are really irrational because it's just anxiety or from some kind of childhood trauma or whatever it might be. So I say to them all the time is to remember that you are a great filmmaker and you are a confident person. Don't let these rejections put you off. It's going to make you stronger. So it's that kind of mindset is to see it as a thing where it's going to be just not yet, but also something else will come in the right fit, and that there's no one size fits all. And to remember that the no's do not mean to give up and there's nothing more for your career. It's actually the opposite. There's loads more things you can achieve. So stay confident and saying, don't change, stay confident. I always say the word stay confident, not like, oh, become confident. Stay confident is the key word.
Yeah, I love how that can not only helps your clients, but it seems to transcend the creative fields, because it's important to remember that just because something is a no doesn't mean, you're horrible at what you do. It doesn't mean you're not passionate. I love the thinking of it's a not yet, or maybe it's
Exactly.
not the right fit.
That's a really good way to approach it. That's what I do with all of my clients. I remember to always look at it like a no. Is there something else? It might be a different route to take or direction, but it just means not yet. It doesn't mean no, that's it. The dream's over. Just not yet. That's all it is.
I remember several years ago applying for a job that I thought was going to be a wonderful fit. It seemed a great fit on paper and based on my interests and location and everything. The interview went well, and then, obviously I didn't get it, and I was crushed. But
Yeah,
looking back X number of years later, I was like, oh, I'm really glad everything worked out the way it did.
exactly. Because it's supposed to come in that way. It's like I have that. We all have that. We all have it. Like there's sometimes some festivals I'm like, oh damn, it's like I really wanted that one, but then we get something else, and then that helps it get a award that helps it to get something else down the line. And we're like, oh, I just didn't think of that. Because you just get fixated on one thing. And it's really important to see the bigger picture is always a key thing. When that happens, I'm like, oh, hang on, let me see the bigger picture and not be too narrow. I mean, I have to obviously create a strategy that's very focused, but I need to keep on top of the big picture still, because that's the key thing.
One final question before we wrap up. In your own words, what does living a creative life mean to you?
One thing that pops up is freedom. Freedom. I just love creating a strategy for a film when I have the freedom and the bandwidth to do it, and there's no like end in sight. I can go as long as I want without any restriction, and I have no, barriers or boundaries to face. Everything just flows. So yeah, I think the key word there is for me is freedom of expression, freedom to be creative, and freedom to do everything on my terms with nobody telling me what I should do. It's all my own authorship.
I love that. Anything else you'd like to share with our listeners before we sign off?
My key thing is, this is what I learned from one of my business mentors, is never give up on your dreams. Always keep moving forwards. Never give up. If you give up, you won't know what's going to happen, and then you make defeat when there's nothing to worry about. Never give up. If there's a knock on the way or a bit of a setback, it's part of the process. Keep moving forwards and don't stop.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. Please check the show notes to learn more about Dr. Rebekah Louisa Smith. And if you're a filmmaker or any type of creative, feel free to dive into her new book. Again, links will be in the show notes. And thanks always for listening. Thanks for listening to the podcast. Like the show? Have a question? Stop by the Facebook and Instagram pages. Links are in the show notes, or search for Creative Piecemeal Podcast on social media and click follow for all the latest.